Listen, I try to make this video like 2 or 3 times. I already done been shenanigans once or twice because like the audio and video quality just looked like it was shot on a potato. So I don't know. Hopefully this one turns out better. But I don't know if you're anything like me, but I've been deeply terrified to be like an artist and creative, especially this year with all the stuff going on with like AI and like the way that everybody's saying the world is gonna go and all that other stuff. I mean, not for nothing, as an artist, I already feel deeply anxious as a person, and like I tend to like run from putting stuff out generally because I don't typically like the internet. But this year specifically, I think it just has started to feel like I don't know what's the point. And in that same breath, this year has been the year where I have pushed the hardest to actually try to put myself out there in recent memory. And not just with like what is publicly shown, but like actually making stuff and actually living life and going out. And one of the ways I've been pushing myself is that I've been trying to invest in myself as a creative. Everybody keeps saying, I gotta go get The Artist's Way. Everybody keeps saying this book is gonna change your life. Ooh, look at it, fancy. It's supposed to change your life. It's supposed to make you a better artist. It's supposed to make you whatever. So I bought it earlier this year and I hadn't touched it. I was like floating around doing a bunch of other courses. But about 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh, at least from the time that I'm recording this, I was like, oh, like it's the end of the year. There's about 12 weeks left in the year. And I know The Artist's Way is a 12-week course. So I said, what a better way. What's a better way to round out the year than be working on myself? So here we are. And we are at the end of week 1. So this is my week 1 check-in and checklist. I'm going to be doing this weekly. But before I go any further, hi, welcome or welcome back. My name is Matt. I'm a multi-hyphenate creative and artist out of Philadelphia. I'm just trying to document my journey with creation in general. I want to get used to making things in front of people again. Started out in like the slam poetry space and was doing public speaking, and then also have gotten into music and making clothes and different things like that. And I'm just trying to bring it all together in one place. So that's a little bit about me. And let's talk more about The Artist's Way. So I just started this. I'm probably going to do like a bigger general explainer for what this is. It is a self-guided creative course by Julia Cameron. She is a creative coach. A lot of artists, or at the very least people that have done things that you know of, have done this, or at least have taken things from this book that they have found really, really helpful. And I would like to be one of those people. But I've just heard really nice things about it, and I wanted to give it a go. But yeah, everybody says really great things about The Artist's Way. They say it's supposed to change you as a person. You're supposed to become a new, fancy, special, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what all that's about. I only hope to become a better person and a more in tune person at the end of this. I said all the stuff I wanted to say the first time I took this video. This is like time 2 or 3. So I'm just going to rehash it so that way I'm good on check-ins. And I'm going to be doing these check-ins weekly. I'm going to make this a series. So if you're interested, follow along, I guess. I'm going to make this from 2 perspectives. One just being, I'm going to be watching these later again just to see where I was at in a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I want to be able to track my progress, but also with the assumption that maybe you might want to also go along, like it is a course. And so I'm just going to be giving regular feedback, talking about whatever, this is what I learned, as if we're all in the course together. So that's how this is going to go for me. That's the mentality I'm going into it with. So this week's chapter was about regaining a sense of safety. And Julia talks a lot about what we do when we feel unsafe. And what I suspect this book is going to be a lot of is reparenting work, and a lot of the recovery is going to be in personal community, like internal stuff going on there. At the very least, that's the impression I got from the first chapter, which I'm for. I'm not even mad at it. But yeah, she talks a lot about artist safety in this particular chapter, and how like the starting point or the resting point for most artists is to be a shadow artist, which unfortunately I resonated with a lot. And that shadow artist piece is one that you hear about quite a bit, actually. I don't know if this originated here. I know I've read Turning Pro and The War of Art, which kind of talked about this same phenomenon where people who are artists, and to me, art is about decision making. Art is about making choices and making decisions, especially in this wild world. And to be bold enough to make a choice is to, you know, is like one of the most valuable things that human beings can do in this world, because it's chaotic by nature. That is why a lot of the times order tends to be an act of love, although the way that we desire to order ourselves may not be so loving, which is what a lot of this chapter was about. It very much was about going back to the shadow artist piece, very much was about like getting close to the thing but not being the thing. Like she goes over the story of a guy who basically his partner was an artist and she wanted to do stuff, and he was an artist, but like he was like too afraid to be in the limelight and too afraid to do things, so he did all the best he could to like support her and push her forward and do all these things. And but when it was time for him to do it, he was like, I can't do it. And she talks about a lot of the cognitive distortions that pop up, like any of the reasons are that the face of what she describes as the censor, I would call it the inner critic. She talks a lot about how the idea of sitting as close to the field as you can but not actually playing is attractive to artists because of all the things we think we are going to be: crazy, insane, poor, gay, straight, open, down, up, left, right, A, B, start, like all the things that being an artist would make you, and all the cognitive distortions that are there. I found it very, very interesting. Certainly the censor doesn't need and getting into the censor piece, it's like very much about the language that your inner critic uses is the language that has kept you safe for the most part, because in the way that she speaks about it, and in the way that I take it, at the very least, I know that the inner critic is not there to punish us. Like, at least for me, I'll speak for myself. Like, a lot of the times I've interacted with, it's like, it's very, very taxing, very, very angry, very, very critical, very, very whatever, or filled with sadness and anxiety, but all to get you to not do a thing, to play it safe, to be careful, to be comfortable. And what I found my censor to be, especially because I was doing a bit of work on this and experience stuff recently in this area, looking at the censor and the inner critic, mine has been very, very critical, especially when doing like new things. It's been very much like, you're doing this wrong, X, Y, Z, Z, Y, X. And she highlights a lot about how that voice may not even come from you, or like the person wearing the face of that voice may be like a parent, or maybe like a brother, or maybe like an old ex, or maybe like any number of people that have played a role in your life that you didn't know you didn't realize was so impactful for you, and you're still carrying those voices on, which is certainly a very human thing. But I think it gets amped up more and more when you try to take more control of your life and try to make more active decisions. And so for me, it's certainly been that way. And much of what has kept me away from being active, putting stuff out, or doing whatever else has been like the voice of like, for me, it's like, I don't like the internet. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to be seen by people. And I'm thinking that'll keep me away from people I don't want to see, but that also keeps me away from people I don't know who could change my life. That also keeps me away from opportunities that doors that have not entered my heart, opportunities that have not entered my heart that I just don't know about are out there in the world. And I have to put up my beacon for people to see me, to see who I am, to see what I'm about. And the censor is keeping me safe from that. And I don't want to be safe from that. I want to go out into the world. And so the challenging part is that whatever tone it uses, it is fear. Like, it is that fear. It is that piece where it's like, run. And mine is typically, especially when I'm still doing the thing anyway, been one of anxiety or personal anger and attack. It's been like, you're not fucking doing it right. You're not getting this. Oh, pardon my language. I don't know. Anyways, you're not doing it. I'm sure I'm probably gonna be watching this anyway. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it correct. You have to get this way. You have to get this that way. And I know I didn't start with that voice. I definitely got that voice from my father and my brother in part. But it's very much like, it's just family members in general. But like, it's been how I've kept myself on track, like that criticism and that critique. And not for nothing, in the art, one of the things I've loved, especially about like learning to do music, like when I first started doing poetry, it was very much like this right word, this exact thing. But when I started doing music, it was just like, just follow the feeling and stack the feelings up on top of each other, and then come back and pick things apart when you're ready. But like, yeah, like I feel like that's been a little more of a freeing process. But not for nothing, a lot of the stuff that she has in here in regard to the items that she's asked us to go over this week has been interesting, just in that it has allowed me to look at those voices those critical voices a little more critically, to see what they're saying, to see what truth is there and why. Because I personally am of the mind that I would love to turn my critics into cheerleaders. I personally would love to turn my critical voice into one that's on my side, because it is so powerful. And sometimes it's right, but the way that I get the information, or how I get the information, can be so self-deprecating and so painful. And it's certainly not a voice that I would point out to anyone, not anybody that I love or even that I don't love. I wouldn't do that. I don't do that. But to me, it's like, it's like, what? And so, yeah, not for nothing. I just want to be happy when I'm making stuff. and it's just been it's been interesting. So a lot of the stuff that she has us to do task wise have been interesting. This is getting to the morning pages. One of the most critically acclaimed parts of The Artist's Way is the morning pages. They have been interesting. They getting up and the first thing I do is writing 3 pages has been good. It has allowed me to declutter and just take out anything that would be in the way. It also allowed me to finish thoughts that maybe my brain was trying to chew on while I was asleep, and kind of finish that run off. This is the notebook that I've been using. I woke up 2 days ago, like, why is my hand hurting? Because I did this all 7 days. I've done this all 7 days. And I'm going to keep doing it to the end of the thing. But like, this part of my hand has been in pain. I'm like, why? I'm like, I don't understand why. What have I been doing? I've been writing for an hour every day when I get up for 3 pages and then not looking back at it. Of course you're going to be in pain, you goof. Of course you're going to be in pain. Like, so, no, so in order to avoid carpal tunnel, I'm going to probably get a smaller book, like something that looks a little more like this, and be doing it. But it's been a good practice. I'm sure I'm going to keep doing it after I'm done. I can understand why people find it so sticky. And then artist dates. That's been interesting. So this week's artist date, I went out. I tend to be the curious type. I just like exploring and figuring things out and seeing where things can go. I enjoy novelty to a certain degree. So I just went to a part of my city where there's a walking trail where I have not been, out in nature, like close to trees and grass, and that's like felt kind of foresty. That was foresty. It was a forest. And I enjoyed it. And I went out there and I walked around and I was like, this is great. And the sun was up when I started and it was not up when I went and I was done. So I said, And so artist date wise, I don't know what I'm going to do this week, but I'm sure it's going to be fun and playful. I will enjoy myself. But yeah, outside of that, those 2 things are supposed to be continuous throughout the course, so the artist date and the morning pages. And the only other thing she says for this check-in is, were there any other issues this week that I considered interesting for my recovery? I kind of touched them on already. I kind of touched them on. I kind of touched on those already. But one of the creative check-in things that was very interesting for me so far was just like the listing the old enemies and like the horror story stuff, because it's like I used to beat myself up a lot. I'm still, when I'm doing new things, have a harder time calming that inner voice. I've done things like, breath work and meditation, which has been really wonderful and really, really powerful for actually calming down and digesting things on an emotional level. And doing that in conjunction with these things has brought up a lot of the way that I was raised and spoken to as a child, which I do not like. And it also brings up, from people that I was tender with, like I had a partner in high school that said terrible things, like my first one that said terrible things. And like it bothered me for some time. I got over it. I thought about it and I was like, yeah, like that was bad. That was bad. And not for nothing, like she's doing well. I'm not like, oh my God. But in doing the writing, I was able to see very much how I handled it then and the template of behavior. It's not even what she said or her in general. I don't even know what she's doing in her life at this point. I think she's doing, like, she's good. But like, it is the template of behavior that started from my home that reflected out onto my relationships. And because I spoke to myself that way, that is the only way I would expect other people to speak to me, and the only way that I would allow. And so in my creativity and in my art, when I would go up, it would be like, this is not good enough. And I'm so sorry that I'm giving you this not good enough thing, but this is all I have. And so I would create with a sense of yearning and desperation, because I felt this was truly all I had to offer, because I was not good enough. And one of the great things about this week was that she said, like, with blurts, with different things like that, like as you're going through, like she told you to write until it'll come up, right? Like you write affirmations and your voice will tell you to shut the hell up. And so mine was around like competence. Mine was around like worthiness. Mine was around like, can you do it? And so for me, it was just like, yeah, I'm a competent creative. I'm the kind of creative that if I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it, I'm going to figure it out. And when I figure it out, I'm going to create a blueprint so that way it's easier and simpler, not just for me, but for everyone after me. And even in saying those sentences, my brain is going, shut up, little. And so it's just fascinating. But I am a competent creative, and I have the ability to make the world look the way that I want it to. And I want to make the world look beautiful, and I want to add more to it. And in knowing that and in sitting with that and letting that be the fuel, this week has been very, very interesting and fascinating. There's other things in here. Like, I'm not going to go point by point for all that other stuff. Like, there's things like, imaginary lives. The imaginary lives one was fun. I picked out the actual roles. Like, some of them were like teacher, personal coach, monk / minister, even though those are not the same thing. A live loop artist, hand at Hoffman. That seemed fun. A mangaka. I've always wanted to retire and become a mangaka, but anybody that knows how that works knows that that is the opposite of retirement. But I do want to be a comic book artist or a film writer or a screenwriter. Like, I chose more than 5. I hadn't lived out any of those fantasies this week. I'm going to maybe do the live loop one or the mangaka one, or maybe the screenwriter. Like, I'll make a story and then do like a short whatever. I don't know. I'll find some sort of short project to do next week, depending on how intense next week is. But this one was recovering a sense of safety. Next week is recovering a sense of identity. And just to cap it all off, I found this to be really, really interesting. I am going to keep going forward, and I'm going to be doing this for the next 12 weeks. If you want to see episode 2 or part 2 of that, that'll be right, yes, yeah. All right, anyways, thanks.